A couple of weeks ago, this being now May in the year of our algorithm 2025, Nikon released firmware for the Nikon ZF. But it wasn't just any firmware, this was the 2.0, the cheesy might. Rather than just a bunch of bug fixes, it actually had some features I cared about, so I thought I'd go test them out in the world. And what I encountered, like the flavor level on a box of barbecue shapes, was a mix of frustration and triumph. And welcome to Mount Tamron. Just thought I'd take this opportunity to load the 2.0 firmware on the Nikon ZF, test out some of my favorite features. So some of the features I wanted to try out were the color profiles, the bird tracking, if I can see any birds at all, and the auto ISO, which is what I'm using now to expose with this backlight behind me. Seems to be working pretty well. I have the ISO dial set to C, so it's just picking ISO for me. It's currently at 1600, and it's cycling as I whip through. It's handy for situations like this where the lighting changes as we walk. The first feature I wanted to try out was the Creative Cloud image recipes. So, I should also cover that you can now set the ISO to C and have it just go to auto ISO, which honestly should have been there all before, so more of an apology than a feature. And now using one of the presets, Golden Dusk. As you can see, very red shadows, and I like the muted greens, but my own edit kind of HDR the living hell out of it and boost all the shadows. Given my level of color correction has been charitably described as forcibly drowned in cold tea by my own father, I was definitely keen to explore a couple of the creator recipes, especially ones like Sun-Kissed Warmth and Honey, which both had previews that suggested a certain hint of the cozy beverage assault that appealed to me personally. Again, straight out of camera, again with Golden Dust, then my edit after, I think, again, Golden Dust.
We name lakes when they're in shallow.
And then straight out of camera, I think the earth is too red in this. That's what was bothering me. And then my edit, which I think is more striking, straight out of camera. Then my edit, this was some view of the mountain ranges off in Tamron Mountain. Straight out of camera with one of the bluer presets. And then my edit, I just think that that's overall way more balanced. This is with the ultra wide lens, as you can see, the 14-30. There's a straight out of camera featuring my boys. Really high dynamic range scene, so predictably with some editing, that photo gets far more rescued. Funny that. Oh, you okay? A little bit. Just a photo to show straight out of camera versus mine. No preset applied there. This is straight out of camera of a waterfall handheld for 1 second. The Nikon ZF has really nice stabilization, so you can actually do this straight out of camera with one of the green presets, and then my edit and the crop, I think, makes that kind of work. I don't think we quite get the perspective of how big and deep this waterfall is. It really wasn't possible to, and I couldn't get a drone in there because there's too much tree cover. So the new low ISO mode allows you to shoot under the native 800 ISO, which is great for indoors. But for outdoors, I got to be realistic. Here I am shooting a bright sky, and I still have to stop down to f16 at a 50th for it to be not blown out. And this is straight out of the iPhone 14 Pro. I just wanted to show you that the detail in RAW is actually really good, really editable. Maybe I don't need this really nice camera. Maybe I'm wasting my time. Straight out of camera, this is just some sort of interesting mildewy rocks and what's growing out of them. Again, with that golden dusk, I kind of liked how the colors came out, but I think it needed more warmth overall. The tones were too blue.
Good.
And then here, during actual sunsets, the golden dust preset, as you can see, it's just too much. My own edit, returning a little bit of the natural greens to the edit, I think I prefer it. And then again, you can see there's a beautiful sunset yellow light coming through, but it's just too yellow. So that's my edit, fixing it. And so that was the first few experiments. No great photos there, not even, only so-so ones really. But I think that does illustrate the presets pretty well. That's my edit, fixing it. And so that was the first few experiments. No great photos there, not even, I did get some okay shots of the with the DJI, with the drone coming off Mount Tamborine. I was at least happy with these, but these have nothing to do with the firmware. I just wanted to show you these shots. There was a really nice mist settling over the sunset there. Rolling hills with the contrast created by the condensation as it settles over the mountains. So going back through these, I realized somewhat predictably there was no way I was going to put up with Brandon Wolfell fingering my knobs. So I wanted to create my own. But given you can only create recipes in NX Studio, I then had to open Lightroom as well, then painstakingly recreate a few of my own presets, which of course came out weird because of the ridiculous slider of the way to the wall calibration I used. Probably my fault. However, I found you can get around that by adjusting the lightness, chroma, and hue adjustment here. It also took way too long to figure out that you have to use flexible color in order to have HSL adjustments, or HCL as they nerdily and probably correctly call it here. Also, NX Studio is weirdly slow with a considerable lag in between adjustment and result, which is probably what kills it for me the most. I likely use it to make presets only. I wouldn't say the process of loading them on your camera is super clean either. You've got to navigate around this clunky website, you load in the profiles, you have to check that there's slots free, then you update, and then you have to go into the cloud menu on your camera and then refresh again, and then make sure there's the right amount of slots. It's okay. My plan was to take the custom profiles that I'd created in NX Studio, load them onto the camera, take a photo, take a second clean photo with no profile, load them into Lightroom, and then put them side by side, and then apply my Lightroom profile that was supposed to look like that and see how it came out. So here's a few photos to compare my in-camera profiles, which are linked below, and my Lightroom presets that I prefer to use. Just really focusing on the greens here, but I think I kind of got it sort of right. So maybe that will save you some time in the future. In the interest of time, I see that we're already at 8 minutes, and you might not have seen a bird yet, even though I mentioned that earlier. And the reason is that I didn't take any bird photos that day, but I did take them the next day, and now that's in the next video, which you will see soon. Thanks for watching this one. Catch you in that next one.